Fabien, thank you so much for being here, sir.
Thank you so
A
much for having
pleasure.
me.
It is 2 o'clock a.m. and I think that this might be the latest one I've done, which is
Damn,
good.
okay. All
Yeah.
right. What an honor.
Yeah. All right. I mean, hey, somebody had to take the place, and I'm glad it's you, Fabien.
My pleasure.
But you're in Berlin right now, yes?
Yes, I live in Berlin. I have for the past 11 years. But yeah, so I'm here today. It is beautiful, sunny, which is not every day, so it is
Yeah.
truly a lovely day.
And you're just getting adjusted now. I mean, 11 years, you're kind of just still trying to find
Yeah,
your way.
exactly. I'm starting to figure out, the language, making a few friends, like I'm taking my time, but I'm getting there.
Yeah, yeah, but you're from France originally, right?
hmm Yes, born and raised in Paris, or I mean the suburbs of Paris.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, my whole family is French. We're just a French family. Yeah, and so I moved here like yeah, 11 and a half years ago. Absolutely.
Now, what drew you out there?
Um, well, I mean, first of all, I think like early 20s, I was starting to get a picture of what it was going to be like to try to make it work in Paris, no matter what I did. A lot of things became like a lot more clear to me, like rent and how much money people make and all that. And it didn't seem very appealing. So I was pretty set on like getting out of there. And then yeah, like I met this girl who lived here, and it made this very brave journey like very easy, and yeah, and 11 years later, the girl's gone. I'm still here, so something worked out.
You win some, you lose some.
Yes, exactly. But so yeah, I came to Berlin, I think like half for the appeal of Berlin, because I'd traveled here a couple times, and half for like just getting out of Paris, because I couldn't see myself thriving there. And honestly, like I get to go back a couple times a year, and that is still the case. Like after a week there, I'm still like, yeah, no, couldn't make it work.
It hasn't changed. Your mindset would still be
I
the
mean, I
same.
think, yeah, the place has changed, I would say, like, relatively, but the reasons why I didn't feel comfortable like staying there, I think are still the same.
Hmm.
Just, like expensive life. It doesn't seem like a really comfortable and inviting place to try and make music, especially on the scale that I make music and the sort of budgets that are generated from it. Yeah, it just doesn't seem like it's super comfortable and very yeah, inviting. It's
Right,
not that. And
right.
so yeah, so I get to like make sure and verify that like a couple times a year. So that's nice, to be
Yeah,
validated.
just to double check a bit. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
And were you taken by Berlin immediately that you're like, yes, this is the place I need to be?
Honestly, yeah. Yeah. I mean, there was a bit of a duality, because I think that one thing I found out here was how big, like as far as music, how big the electronic music scene was going to be compared to like the music scenes that I maybe feel more comfortable or relevant in. So that was like definitely a bit of I definitely like found out like when I was here. But I have to say that as far as like the prospects of like getting cheap rent, getting easy work, meeting people, feeling that sort of like I don't know freedom and detachment, that was like apparent right away. Like the first couple of months, I was like, yes, this is the place that I was hoping this would be 100%. And it was, of course, like even truer 11 years ago than it is today. But yeah, no, I was like, for the pretty irresponsible young man that I was, it was like the perfect place, because the stakes were so low, as far as like what you needed to get by and how bad you could really fuck it up. Like it's yeah, definitely it became clear right away. Yeah.
That wiggle room's important.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I need it. I still do, so yeah, I enjoy
Uh,
it.
would you have eventually found Berlin as a place that it is without this relationship with this woman?
Honestly, I believe so. I believe that like it just was and still is so perfectly lined up with like what I need from a place as far as like where I'm based. Um So I like to believe that, yeah, I like to believe that like that connection was meant to be made. And yeah, honestly, like if it wasn't Berlin, it would be some another city that would be like very close as far as like how it works and what it offers and what it requires for sure.
Right, right.
So
Now,
I'm just pouring a little glass here.
no, hey, you got it. You got to do it. I want you to stay hydrated. Yeah,
Thanks, man.
this
I
this
do.
is good stuff so far. I think we hit a stride already,
Oh,
and
hell
this
yeah.
early is insane.
Sure.
Um, so did you get into making music while you're still in France, or
Yes. Yeah,
okay?
yeah, yeah. I mean, making it like just like early, as far as like creating it. Because so I moved here when I was 22. So yeah, like like I found music pretty much as a teenager. Um, and so yeah, I started like like the usual route of like teenage musician with my friends, also playing music and being in bands, like forming bands together, like doing covers and all. But so yeah, so I started like pretty much like yeah, like when I was 12 or 13. Um, so that's when I started like making music in the broader sense of the term. And yeah, like I became like pretty involved with it like right away. Like that was like I think the first thing in my life that I displayed any sort of discipline or any sort of like seriousness. That was the first thing definitely that I felt like compelled by myself to like sort of get involved with. And involve myself in and engage myself in for sure. Yes, so like I had like by the time I moved here, I definitely so I mean I had been to music school as well as sound and engineering school. Like yeah, so I would say like by the time I moved here, I was definitely pretty set on like trying to make as much music as I could. Um and yeah, even by that time, I think I had like built some skills. I had been to like a couple of years in music school, a couple of years in sound engineering school, and I had started like, like the first steps of like, writing my own material, or at least writing stuff that I felt like maybe was worth, working further on,
Hmm.
um, as well as like yes, like started very like the very early stages of like recording myself and starting to figure that out and get a feel for it. Yeah, so by the time I moved here, I had like I had developed some of the skills that I would use to like work and just be creative here in Berlin for sure.
Right. Do you feel like
Absolutely.
this formal education that you received, I mean, it did obviously pay off, but can that only go a certain so far until you kind of have to start doing it yourself in order to learn to go further with the education?
I think you're totally right about that. I think this is true probably for like any educational stuff, but I would say like music is definitely like a great example of that. And that I think, like you can be introduced to a lot of concepts musically, but I would say that like, yeah, like in order to fully internalize them in a way that like they're useful or even they really fully reveal themselves to you, yeah, you need to like figure a lot of stuff out on your own. And like, I think, like, yeah, like most of the musical realizations that I've done and like the musical concepts that I've truly learned and made my own, yeah, it was like years after I had left school. When I was in school, I really didn't get any of the stuff that the teachers were trying to like show us. Like, or I would scratch the surface, and it's only by like the fact of keep playing and yeah, keep working on that stuff by myself. This is where I truly, I think, yeah, revealed whatever knowledge that had been introduced in school. So I would say, like, yeah, definitely, like, I mean, in my case, yeah, like, I think it was great to have this introduction and to also be shown what it's like to, if you pursue music, but in this really, really like discipline, like classical almost way. It was very interesting to see like, what people hope to achieve from that kind of approach, what it can where and what it can get you, and also where and what it can get you, you know, like and for me, like weirdly enough, I think that was the thing that was more apparent, you know, like it showed me that, like, I don't know, I wasn't really into doing the whole like a standard professional musician thing of just trying to get real good at music and then just seeing wherever the work is and doing that, if you know what I mean.
Right, right.
Um, but as far as the knowledge, yeah, like I thought it was super interesting. Some of those musical concepts, I'm not sure I would be even familiar with if it wasn't for this school, you know. So like I think it really introduced a lot of concepts for me to like remain interested in further down the line, definitely.
Would you be making the same kind of music that you are now if not for the education that you got?
That's a very good question. I mean,
Thank you.
um, I mean, again, like it's the kind of stuff I'd like to believe. So I'd like to believe that there's an aspect of the music that I create that goes beyond, you know, that stuff. What I can say for sure is that like if I was able to like come up with the exact same stuff, it would probably take me even longer or be even more mysterious to me, like why this works and why this doesn't. Um, so yeah, I'd like to believe so, but in reality, I don't think I would because all this like sort of like more traditional background of learning music, I think it's given me like a lot of the tools that I use to that I use creatively, not just as a musician, but like as someone who writes music. I think those tools are like very much in my arsenal.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I like I said, I'd like to believe that, you know, it all comes from within, but part of me believes that, yeah, like it's very much informed by what I've learned and what I know, kind of, you know?
Right, right. Now, taking a step back, when
Hmm.
you kind of started getting into music for yourself at
Yeah.
11 or 12 or 13, were you kind of exploring music on your own and figuring out what you liked, just doing it by yourself and finding these different artists, or was it something that you were exposed to from other people?
But yeah, well, I mean, I think for me, like, yeah, like, I think it's both, you know, like there was like right away I saw the opportunity to like just, you know, get into my own thing through just, you know, learning music, like learning songs. I would find out about bands and you know, like I don't know, it was the I guess the early stages, but like there was already a lot of stuff to find online, you know, like a lot of band recommendations or like, you know, it wasn't like YouTube wasn't I don't know if it was a thing even, but you know what I mean? You couldn't just go on YouTube and like find some dude to teach you a song like you do now. But um yeah, like, you know, music access was like I think easier than like, you know, for my parents or like, you know, people that are older. Um and also I would say like, you know, on the other hand, yeah, like it was also a great way to like I don't know, like exchange with my friends, you know, like and show each other some music and all that stuff. But as far as like, you know, being sort of like by the time I got into music, being already, you know, sort of like I mean, my parents like music, you know, but very I mean, first of all, like, you know, like it's quite amazing. There's no consistency to the kind of music they like. It's just all over the place and they have no ID, which is like pretty adorable.
That's great.
Uh
I like that. There's no clear path to why they
yeah,
like
no,
certain things.
exactly. And like it
I
actually
love those
like
kind of people. It's awesome. Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty incredible. And so yeah, I guess I grew up with some music around the house. They're not the kind of people who play music all the time, but they will play music. And it went from like, you know, French chanson stuff, you know, traditional kind of like pop French music to like, I don't know, Pink Floyd or Supertramp or classical music. My dad listens to a lot of jazz as well. Um, so yeah, so like I think, you know, like I had some references but as far as like, you know, sort of like putting music as that much of an important thing or something that like, you know, can take that bigger place in someone's life. I didn't really have, I think, like an example of that, like, you know, of someone who sort of like, yeah, made that decision to like pursue music on that level, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and being
Um,
immersed in it
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. I have
Deeply.
like my godfather, like who's a family friend, plays guitar, plays really well, but like like definitely gave up on the whole like idea to like do anything serious with it like a long, long time ago. But so I guess that's as close as you can get to like having some sort of like musical representative, in my family. Um, but no, as far as like, so it was always presented as something that's like cool, that's like a nice thing to like have in your life, but definitely nobody was presenting it to me as like something that could be, more than that, something that you can really find your identity in, and something you can really find like all the sort of like fulfillments in, as I ended up doing.
Right. So it wasn't completely out of left field for you to tell your folks, hey, this is what I'm passionate about. This is what I want to be interested, or this is what I'm interested
No.
in.
Well, I mean, like they're pretty, they're pretty like traditional people, like like my dad's a lawyer, my mom like worked in pretty much in healthcare like her whole life, and so yeah, like I guess like the whole like trying to make a career, really pursue it was like a different conversation.
Yeah.
But I think that like they had always like made it open that like me or my brothers or sisters, we would definitely like like yeah, like they didn't push us to any artistic career or pursuit, but they definitely introduced all that stuff to us just because they enjoy it, and they like music and art and movies and whatever.
I keep on saying this, lawyers and healthcare workers, I mean, they are the backbone of who's listening to music and consuming media.
Absolutely, definitely
And no
my
one believes
music.
me. Yeah, yeah,
No, but dude, for sure, yeah. I think, yeah, they listen to a lot of music, like, yeah, absolutely. Let's start making music for them.
I've been saying that there needs to be a good soundtrack for this kind of just really specific occupations.
Oh, definitely, definitely. You're right. Yeah, yeah. Like,
And I
yeah,
I heard that you're working on some stuff like bus drivers, I think. Is what
absolutely.
that's the
Bus
rumor.
driver, cab drivers, any sort of driver, actually. That's my goal. It's to make music that's just like appealing to anybody who drives, in
Yeah.
general.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
A lot of people drive. That's gonna sell well. I like that idea.
That's true. I don't drive actually, though.
But
I don't have a
but you've
license.
you've seen these people doing it. I mean, it's
Yes,
being done.
yes.
Yeah.
It is mesmerizing, by the way. Like, I don't know how they do it, but one day maybe.
Why that just never appealed to you to get one to get a
Well, I mean,
license?
I grew up in Paris, right? So there's not really any need for a driver's license. And by the time like it became relevant, like, by the time I started like, touring or hauling gear around, like I feel like it was too late already. Like I feel every couple years, every 2 years, I'll look into like, what it would take as far as like organization and money to like take the test now. And I never do it because it looks like I think it's a young man's game.
There was a
But
time and a
yeah.
place for it, and that's done. So moving
Exactly.
forward.
But so, I can live and drive vicariously by, making music for the people who do.
Right, right. This is your ode to them. Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely my homage.
I'm with you. What were some bands or artists that you were just gravitated towards in this earlier stage of getting into music?
Like earlier, I would say like definitely like the older grunge stuff. That's what I really identified with, especially as like, a teenager, a confused teenager. It's like the perfect music, right?
And you're walking around, you're not driving. Yeah,
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 exactly. Just walking around, big disc man, just like, yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Just doing it. Um, yeah, and so yeah, that was definitely like I think the first sort of like, musical genre or like scene or whatever you want to call that I really identified with, like on many levels, like musically and I don't know, like fashion and like all that stuff, definitely. So yeah, at the early stage, I think that was like the most important stuff, and then that like gradually like it became like heavier and heavier and more by the end of my teens I was like definitely into like metal and like that kind of stuff, but also I had also discovered like all the like psychedelic side of music. So like through grunge I think I discovered like both like more heavy music and also like more like trippy progressive music, to call it that kind of.
Right,
But yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. But the first one was definitely yeah, grunge and like that sort of like alternative music, you know. But I mean, you know, grunge, when you're 13, 14, it's like it's a broad term, you know, like I was really into like Foo Fighters, for example, which I guess is a broad version of what grunge can be, you know.
Yes, yes, that is it. Yeah, but it can fall under that umbrella. Yeah, I
It
do
did for
see.
me. It did. It was good enough. It had one guy from Nirvana. What you know? What more
Which
do you
is
need?
this,
You
which
know,
is a very very huge staple of grunge in general. Yes, that's yeah, that
absolutely. To
is
have a
not a
guy from
creepy feeling.
Nirvana, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand where you're coming from on that. Uh, do you still find uh that there's influences from this grunge and this heavy metal that you're into that is not overtly shown through your music? But do you
I
think there's hints of it,
I
in
think
there?
yes. I think so. I mean, I feel like I know that there is. You know, as far as like some of the harmonic IDs that I have, like as far as like you know chord progression, that kind of stuff. Um, But no, I would say like funnily enough, out of like all the music that I've been into, I don't think it's like it's probably the one that like has faded out the most, you know. I think it gave me like a bit of rigor when it comes to learning, you know, and like working on my instrument, you know, because like heavy music is like a little harder to play, you know. So
Yeah,
I think it made
very.
me develop those skills when I was younger, and it also like yeah gave me like you know blueprint for like how you can work at something, you know, like if you want to, I don't know, get better at it or like just be able to play a part more comfortably or that kind of stuff. But as far as like on a pure creative level, not that much. Like guitar wise, which is my main instrument, I definitely like very consciously steered away from like a lot of those styles and cliches, you know, from that kind of music. Um, so yeah, no, I would say definitely like you'd need to know me pretty well and listen to my music like a lot to really be able to get like metal, I think, from what I do. But I think some people seem to do because like we get a lot of I mean a lot is a big word, but we get some attention from like you know heavier music scenes. Like we get booked from like for like a fair few like stoner festivals, which I'm you know, always very worried what they're gonna think about us. But
And the
so I guess
drugs as well.
yeah, I guess yes. I guess that's the common ground. But no, but yeah, it's very yeah, no, I think that like yeah, that influence is not as obvious
Apparent.
as some
Yeah.
other ones. Yeah, exactly, for sure.
All right. I like that answer. It's a good answer.
Thanks, man.
So when did and I've been debating on how to say this, and please correct me if I'm wrong in this.
Mm-hmm.
Perilymph. Am I saying
Perilymph.
okay?
Perilymph, yeah. In French, you
All
would
right.
say perilymph.
When did Perilymph begin?
Well, I think the very first like thing that happened in like towards that was so when I first moved here, I also moved with one of my best friends and a guy that I was like me and him were playing in a band together and we moved to Berlin together and we were like making a lot of music at the time, you know, and try to write songs together. Like at that time, like I had only ever really written music with him, you know, never alone. Um, and yeah, long story short, being that like a bunch of like the ideas that I wanted to bring to this project, um, just yeah, didn't seem to fit, or like me and my friend, we couldn't seem to like really work on those ideas together. And then again, very long story short, but like the that project never materialized into anything, but all those rejects ended up being like the first few songs for Perilymph for like
Oh,
the yeah. So like that was like the stuff that like yeah, all the rejects. It's funny to call them that, but it was all the songs that like you know like my friend didn't find interesting or they were either like too fleshed out to like really work on together. But that was like not a lot of them because at the time I was not very good at fleshing out anything. And so yeah, like so it was like mostly like you know stuff that like was not to be used for that other project. Yeah, that's how it started. Definitely.
okay. And what year are we kind of talking about that this is
So
occurring?
that's like 2015, I would say. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, yeah, 2012, we moved here. And then for the first 3 years, yeah, we tried to like write music together and like, we would play with a bunch of other people and other people's band and stuff like that. And yeah, so after those 3 years, like, yeah, it became apparent that like those songs were not going to become anything unless I did it.
Yeah. And what was the kind of initial push that was like, okay, I do want to make something with these songs that I have?
Well, I mean, first of all, I mean, I had them like, I had them at like as like very elaborate extended demos, like there were demos in that, like it was all like fake instruments, like like fake drums and stuff, but I had gone so in depth, like, on those demos. I still have them somewhere like there, yeah. And so I was kind of like, I should try to like, record them for real. Because also like, I had been to sound engineering school, but I had zero recording experience as like a professional or even like someone's assistant or whatever, right? So like it was also like a great, I think, opportunity to just try to like, record on like a bigger scale. Um, and also like another thing that I think was like a big catalyst for me, like trying to like make this a little realer and like really record those songs and everything. It was at the time, so after like those couple of years, we had met, me and this friend, we had met like a bunch of other people, and we had this studio here in Berlin, this like practice space. And we would meet there every like like maybe like at the time there'd be like 6 7 of us, and we would meet there a couple times a week and just jam, like get real high and just jam, like for hours, and that was awesome. And so like I felt like I had like sort of conversations with some of these guys, and I had shown them some of those demos, and I was pretty confident that if I asked them to, be part of like a live band that would play those songs, because I couldn't really conceive of like a band that wouldn't be a band, if you know what I mean. Like I was fine recording that stuff by myself, and I didn't feel like I needed to get anybody else involved. Um, but I knew that like it was gonna feel weird if I had an album and nobody to play it with, that it would still be myself. So like yeah, when I felt that I could have a band, that I could have like a couple people who would be keen to learn those songs and play them, then yeah, this is I think what was the big catalyst for me moving one step further with the whole Perilymph thing.
Right. And were these people helping uh, hash out some of those songs more, or was it still
Not
your
so much.
idea?
Well, I mean, like, like sometimes, like, if I was working on a riff or like I had an idea for like a chord progression, I would throw it in a jam and stuff like that. So like I definitely can't say that those people like, weren't part of that process, because like I've always needed and I still do that part of like bouncing ideas of other people, like it's super
Crucial.
important, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Um, and so at least in that regard, they were very instrumental in that. Do you know what I mean? Like I was still like very much like, spending a lot of hours by myself trying to figure out progressions and like where can this part go, etc. Like, but yeah, no, definitely being able to yeah, throw some of those ideas in a jam, even half the time without any of the other people knowing that's what I was doing. Like we just play in the right key. I've got this riff, let me try to throw it on top of that drum beat that he's playing. You know what I mean? Like yeah, it was very very important, I think, like especially at first, which I think because it's like something that I don't know, as I become more and more comfortable with writing, I can emulate that sort of like back and forth maybe a bit more by myself, if you know what I mean, or
Right.
with
It's
like
it's
I
it's easier to mimic that than it
exactly,
was.
exactly. But
Right.
at the time, yeah, I think like having like that sort of like being a part of like that group of friends who were involved in music and played a lot together was like super crucial, as far as like me being able to yeah, flesh out those ideas and try them out 100%.
Hmm. Hmm. Is that how you go about uh, kind of hashing out songs now, or developing ideas, or are you more taking a step back and working them out on your own?
Well, I mean, I think that maybe the proportions have changed, you know. But I still think I need it like really so much. Like definitely. It's definitely um yeah, I think it's super important because not only it's a cool sort of like you know, like a mirror in a way, you know, like because the stuff that you find out in those contexts, like if it's possible to find them out on your own, it takes a lot longer and a lot more energy. So I think, yeah, definitely it's like it's still a big part of the process. And yeah, I mean, like, you know, now we have also like, you know, less time that we used to like, you know, jam. We don't jam as much as we used to and all that stuff. But yeah, being able to like along the line as I'm working, show it to, for example, like, you know, some of my friends or like because like actually like two of the people from like that original group of friends are still playing in Perilymph. And these are like definitely the first two people that I'll show stuff to, you know.
Mhm.
So I think there's less of this like informal figuring stuff out and like bouncing ideas, you know. It's less like informal and natural and just happens, you know, during jams. It's not really like that anymore, but it's still very much part of my process, I think, you know, to be able to like um yeah, like throw ideas around and see which way they fall in a way, you know.
Mhm.
Super important. Yeah.
Very, very. I agree with you on that. I'm not gonna fight you on that idea. I think that
Nice.
yes, yes,
Nice. I was worried.
absolutely. It was yeah, it was a little bit rocky there for a minute.
You made a face. You made a face, but I was like, I can turn this around, you know?
I did make a face, but then I was like, yeah, but let me just hold off on that for a minute. When things don't work and it's not really fitting, but there is something there. Are you most likely dropping it or saving that idea for something else that it could be worked on and worked out in a different way?
I mean, most of the time, 90% of the time, I do neither of those things. I just keep fucking plowing. I just keep like working at a song, sometimes, most of the time, obsessively, and I keep trying stuff until it works, you know? Um, it's happened some like, you know, that I've like this one song ever that I shelved that was like kind of finished. That was like, nah, it's not, you know, like it's not ready to be released or to be part of the album that I was trying to include it in. But yeah, no, usually this is part of my process is that like I also have a lot of time or I take a lot of time, so I'll just keep trying stuff, you know, I'll just keep trying, you know, like a riff for that next part or trying like I'll just keep trying stuff. Like usually like my songs are the result of like many avenues that I've you know that I've explored and decided against or decided that it was a good idea, you know. So it's
Mhm,
funny, like yeah, I don't save a lot of stuff for later. When I have in the past, I never really go back to it, you know. Um, and rarely did I fully drop an idea. Usually I just keep trying, you know, I just keep at it until I feel like this is what I had in mind, kind of, you know, or, you know, what the song
it's
requires.
acceptable. It's
Yeah,
acceptable.
exactly. Exactly. If it fits the bill, absolutely.
uh through this process of really hammering it out and really getting it to where you want it to be, how often is the initial idea change throughout that process and the end result is not so much what you intended it to be?
Well, I think pretty much every time it plays like that, I think like usually I'm able to retain like the you know the main idea, like the reason why I started working on on the certain song, you know. But usually it ends up being like I always start a song with like 50% of what I need for it, if you know what I mean.
Right.
And I just usually know, I know, for example, I know that like at this point there should be a part that should be kind of like that, you know? Like
Hmm.
I know that, for example, like in the middle, there should be like, you know, something where like the dynamic drops and then it builds back up, like that kind of stuff. You know, I always have like depending if like, you know, if my main ID, if it's like quick or if it's slow, if it's, I don't know, like enthusiastic or like maybe sad or whatever, you know, like uh usually like from the main impulse, I have an idea of what else I need to what you call it to
Round it out or
um
complete it,
yeah,
right?
exactly. What else I'm gonna need, you know, like so yeah, so usually like that's pretty much how I go about it, yeah.
That's a good way of doing it. I think you're onto something there.
Cheers, man.
Uh,
No, but yeah, I mean, like it's funny because like yeah, like I it's only when I started like you know talking with like other people who write music that I became aware that like most people they try to retain something more instinctive about like the essence of a song, you know, and most people really try to like stay away from working too much of at a song, you know, like
yeah, right,
and
right.
I don't really have a problem with doing it. I know exactly why people avoid doing it, and I definitely you know, like I feel that myself. I feel like the setbacks, I feel the frustration, you know, and all that stuff. But I'm more like, you know, usually if I start like if I, you know, if I open a project on my computer and I start like, you know, recording stuff to demo, I've got a pretty strong feeling about like yeah, if there's something there or not. Do you know what I mean? Like and
Right.
then yeah, it doesn't say anything about if it's gonna be like a nice song or if it's gonna suck or like, you know, it's but usually I can get pretty close to like what I was going for, you know?
Hmm. What is that feeling when you finally break through? If there's like a really just nowhere spot, you're just your face is to the wall, and then you finally break through it, and there's like, yes, this is what I'm looking for. What does that feel like?
It's I mean, it's my favorite feeling. I think that this is what I'm truly like addicted to in a way. You know, like that's what I keep doing it. Why I keep doing it is because um yeah, there's no release like that one in my experience. You know, it's just it's yeah, it feels just really, really what's the word for that? It just feels very like it makes sense, you know, like um yeah, like it's the truest sense of achievement that I know of it because it's like, you know, it's this goal that you set for yourself and then you manage to have the discipline to follow through. And then the reward is like first and foremost like for yourself in a way. And so I find that is like just as a process is just so free and so positive um that yeah, like I this is really like what I seek every time and what I'm hoping to get from it like 100%. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Um, so yes, this is for me, this is the feeling. Yeah, definitely.
Do you feel like that that drive to like push yourself is you are pushing yourself to get better or to learn something new that stemmed from when you first got into music? Do you feel like it's even that feeling is even stronger now that you've pursued music for this long and gone through all these different hurdles and whatnot? Do you feel like that's more ingrained in you that you're like, yes, I can do it because I've been doing it for 20 years now?
Yeah, I would say definitely because also because what do you call it? Like yeah, like I think the drive is different as well. Like in that I think I used to be more driven by you know, like weird insecurities and like trying to prove myself in the world, something that I, you know, that I
Grunge
could do
style.
it.
Yeah.
Exactly, grunge style, exactly. So like I think I started with like a lot more of that drive. And now I have like, yeah, like you just said, like I think a drive that's more rooted in my experience, um, and also in something that's like more like, you know, yeah, I think I've solved a lot of like questions in my head I've proven to myself that like I'm still doing it. Do you know what I mean? Like which I think I was very worried about when I was younger. I was like, you know, will I still be doing it later? You know, and turns out that I am. So I think I have this like confidence that I can find contexts and situations that allow me to do it. You know, and it's not as depending on like other factors as I feared it could be, you know, like I thought I mean yeah, it's a lot more about like whether or not I want to do it than I was fearing. I thought that like I used to yeah, be very afraid about whether or not I would get to do it, you know, to like just make a lot of music. And actually, yeah, just being able to prove to myself like time and time again that I'm doing it, it's given me this like cooler, like more composed and more relaxed drive, you know, and less like time's running out, like the world needs to know, like, which is more, I think, what I was like when I was younger, you know?
Right. Was there a certain point or a certain age that you hit that you finally proved to your younger self, like, okay, this is possible, and this is not, the case that I'm just gonna drop this at one point? Was there a certain point that was just no longer existed?
No, I think I just became aware of it like a couple of years back, but I think it was a very slow process. Um, I think it's just like it became more real every time there was like a setback or a small setback or something that could make me reconsider things, and then I wouldn't, or I would and I would still decide for music. So I think it's just like being able to create those precedents, like, and keep creating them, and yeah, keep, and then you're able to, like, when those frustrations or those setbacks arise, as they keep doing, right, you're able to look at those precedents that you've been able to set, and yeah, and have the confidence that if it worked out, if you made it work one time, you can make it work again, in a way.
Right. There's a momentum that you've
Exactly,
already
momentum.
built. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think this is important, and I think it's a big part of like me being able to, like, having being able to become, I don't know, like a little more relaxed around the whole exercise.
Right. Um, Taking a step back, was one of those kind of obstacles that you finally, maybe an important moment, was the first album. Is it one or is it I? Just
Yeah,
so.
well, it's supposed to be both, actually.
Okay, all right. There's some teeter tottery moments on this podcast. But
Yeah,
we're making our way through.
absolutely. Oh, 100%, man. Absolutely. Like for me, I mean, like that, because it was the first time that I was able to like set that kind of precedent, like, that I could like put a couple songs together that I felt like fit together, that I could record them by myself, um, and that I could find someone like crazy enough to release it. Um, so yeah, like I think definitely like that was like the biggest, maybe still today, right? Because of like how little precedent I had been able to establish. Um, and yeah, the satisfaction that came from it, definitely. I think this was like still pretty much to this day, like the biggest one. Yeah, it was like the biggest hurdle, I think. And I think that's the one that I was able to like build everything else on top of, like, like the live band, my own workflow, like definitely, yeah, that was like the biggest one still to this day, I would say, yeah.
I can see why. I can see why that'd be a monumental moment.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And I think the only other moment, moment I can compare is when I switched from English to French when I sing.
Mm-hmm.
That was the other one where I felt like, all of a sudden I didn't have any other precedent. I didn't have any other experience to like really rely on and build confidence from. But no, outside of that, yeah, I would say, yeah, like the first one was definitely like, yeah, monumental. Um, and yeah, like I think I'm, like whatever momentum it gave me, I can still feel it,
Yeah.
100%.
And that other album that you're referring to, is that, and please correct me, Tuta Un, or is
Yeah,
that,
so it's tout en haut.
the music stuff is cool, but it's like, how do I say this word? That's what I'm really
Oh,
trying
of
to get
course. This is like
after.
a language podcast, right? Like,
Yes,
yeah. Okay, okay. That's what
this
I
is
thought. Yeah.
sponsored, and thank you for saying that. This is sponsored by Duolingo.
No, but yeah. So that one, yeah, tout en haut, which means in French it means like all the way up. That's what it means.
Mhm.
Yes. So that was like the first one where um I decided to like try to sing in French, which is a big, big one.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Um, going back though to the first album.
Yeah.
Now that was you all the way except one. drum part, right?
No,
The
so sorry. It was, I mean, actually started like that pretty much. And then I was like, this guy is much better on drums than I could ever be. So then it ended up being the other way around. I'm playing drums on one song and he plays drums on the rest of the album.
okay, okay. And that is Fabian.
Yes, exactly. So
Sleep.
there's
How do you how
Slivka.
sleep?
Fabian Slivka. Yeah, that's confusing because there's like, I mean, if you want to know, like I usually go by Fab and he goes by Fabi. That's
Okay.
easier like that, because it
I
can
could I
be
could see.
confusing.
Yeah.
Yes, and so like he's a great drummer. He was like a drummer right, like a great drummer right away when I met him. And at the time he was like super keen to record and like I don't know, and like I said, like just having him play on these songs like up the production value of that album by I don't know how much, but like by a lot. Like yeah.
And was he a part of the initial group of this the eight piece or nine piece that you were jamming with?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. He was like the drummer. At the time there was like yeah, maybe like including myself, like three drummers. And he was like the only guy who played only drums. You know what I mean? Like most of us are like multi-instrumentalists. We like to switch around, especially when we jam. But he was the only guy who didn't play another instrument, so he was playing drums all the time. Which you gotta like that sort of dedication.
Oh yeah, no, that there is something there.
Yes.
The man's doing it for a reason, and you got to
Oh,
respect that. Yeah.
absolutely, definitely. He has to. You know what I mean? He wants to, but he has to as well.
A
Um,
little bit of both there. Yeah.
exactly.
I do
Yeah,
respect
man.
it.
So yeah, so yeah, he was a part of that, and like yeah, right away he was. I mean, also like he was the first person that I approached to like be involved in the band because like I knew that it would save me a lot of time if I could just record him instead of trying to hack it away myself, you know?
Hmm. Hmm. So was he the only other person that you worked on with that album? It was you and
Yeah.
him?
So absolutely on that album, it's just me and him. Yeah, exactly. It's him on drums and me doing everything else. Absolutely. Yes.
And did it work out exactly how you thought it was going to work out?
Well, yes, but first we had a first try. I mean, I was also so new at recording stuff, right? So like I remember we had a first session where we tried to record a bunch of songs. And I don't know, I was like caught up with like I read a bunch of stuff, and so I wanted to record with no click, and I wanted to do this and that, and like I had this tape machine that I wanted to use and everything. And then I don't know, like it ended up being impossible to work on. Like I had these drum tracks to no click, and then I was trying to like sync all this other music to it, and it was impossible. And so there was like definitely so that one like was like fully aborted. Those songs, I mean, those songs are the same songs that ended up being on the first album, but those recordings, I just like started all again. I was like, you know what, like this is not gonna work. So it's just like me and Fabi started again from the ground up, this time to a click.
It's a
Um,
good start. Yeah.
yeah, I found out it is. And yeah, and so yeah, so like that's how we did that one. Um, yes. So yeah, just me and him. And at the time, yeah, like Fabi was the first one, definitely. But at the time, if I'm correct, if my memory is good, at the time I recorded with Fabi, there was already talks that maybe we could like, the other guys would be into like, picking up an instrument in the live band if I could book shows. I think by the time we recorded, at least at the time of the real recording, so that second one we I think that was the situation we were in, like we were kind of trying to make this into a band a bit more.
And initially, did you want that, or did you see that? I mean, because you obviously wanted to, as we spoke about earlier, that you wanted to play shows and
Yes.
showcase these songs. But did you
Yes.
feel like it was like, yeah, this is going to require? There's no other way of doing it
Well,
besides with other
yes.
people.
I mean, yes, but like, I mean, again, this is a very good question because it was like a very big duality within me in that, like, up until that moment, like, my dream was to play in someone's band. My dream was to be like, like the virtuoso instrumentist from this band, the guy that the people who are into this band, they don't know, that's who I wanted to be. I wanted to be the guy that, like, I don't know, that, like, yeah, is super useful in a band, but like, doesn't sing, you know, like is not in the forefront. I wanted to be just a hired guy and be really good at that, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so
Yeah, I do apologize. I'm blowing up your spot right now. We're kind of really demolishing that with this interview here, and
I know, dude, like I'll never
I'm
work
sorry.
again. I hope, you know, you
It
you
was a good
realize
run
that.
though. It was a fun run
I
though,
had a
no?
good time. I had a good time.
Yeah.
And no, I know it's just me and Perilymph.
That's all
Uh,
that that's all that matters.
no, but so yeah, on the one hand there was that, and then on the other hand, I was like, you know, like at the time, I don't even know if I was playing in a band, it was nothing that was I wasn't playing a lot with these guys. So I had still like a lot of time, and for me, it seemed like the only way to like make that music come out of the studio, you know, there was gonna have to be a band, and I was gonna have to be in charge of that band, no matter how reluctant I was, and still am to an extent. I was gonna have to be the guy, kind of. And yeah, so like I said, like I was not thrilled by it, but I felt like it was a necessary evil to achieving, or at least to like just take that project a little further, you know?
Yeah. Looking back on it now, there's just no way it could have gone any further than what had to it this had to happen in order to get it going,
Oh,
right?
100%. I mean, like, you know, it's still to this day, we're like, this is as a band, as Perilymph, like this is the one of the few claims that we have, you know, we claim to like make cool, trippy music and cool, trippy albums and be a good live band. We're not good online. We're not great at networking. You know what I mean? Like we're not very good at any of that other stuff. And so I do believe that like if I had not find a way to turn this into a live band, yeah, I think this would still be even more confidential than it is today as a project. You know what I mean? Like
I like
definitely.
that word. That's a very good word to use. Confidential. Yeah.
Mhm.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Uh,
man.
and so from that that initial the first album was Fabby, right?
Yeah.
That's okay, cool. Was he in 100% after that was established that you guys
Yes.
were working together?
Well, yes. I mean, like he is definitely like a big part of this band. But right away, like, you know, he's the only guy in the band who at the time he studied, and he still does in a way. He's an archaeologist, right? So yeah, so even at the time, like, you know, out of all of us, he was the one who had to juggle his schedule the most. You know, he was the busiest guy out of all of us. He was the only guy with a girlfriend at the time as well for a while. You know what I
Damn,
mean? So like
doing everything.
I
Shit.
know, dude, that he's an amazing, like he's the one you should have on, you know? You're like, no, so yeah, but no, definitely as far as like, you know, he helped me write like a bunch of like, I don't know, administrative stuff, whatever funding we ever got, whatever little of it we ever got, it was through his gigantic help. Um, so yeah, from the get-go, he made it very clear in his words and his action that he was gonna be an asset, you know, like 100%. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
What was it established after shortly after that first album that it's like okay, we got to work on a second one, or did it kind of just
What by
was there a little bit of a moment that nothing was really planned?
No, this one, by the time the first album was released, I was almost done recording the second one
Oh
at that
wow.
time. Yeah, 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 for sure. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, you know, I was like very like, you know, like I had found a bit more my footing as far as like producing music. Um, And I remember also like at the time, like I don't know, it felt like a lot of the bands that I was listening to were like putting out a lot of albums, and I was like, this is the way to do it. You know what I mean? You got to keep fucking putting it out there. And so I was trying to like emulate a bit of that, you know, like and try to, I don't know, like yeah, play the game of like having a lot of content, you know, maybe I guess. I wasn't really phrasing it like that in my head, right? But like I was just like, yeah, this is one way to be taken seriously, is to have a lot of music out, you know?
And there is something to that though. There
Oh,
is some
100%. Like
yeah.
some of my favorite artists have like gigantic output. And I think, yeah, like it's part of like what is attractive about them for sure.
Right. And there are certain people who are it's like yeah, that works for them for sure.
Oh, 100%, definitely.
But then, do you feel like you're running the risk of like, that could have been better, and we could have spent more time on this to make it
Well, I think in that
something
case, I
else?
just got kind of lucky because I had all these songs already, like I think it only played out like that because I was able to like, because I wasn't, I mean, I guess I was trying to like work quick and be efficient and be productive, but I was also just lucky that I had the ideas and the songs at the time.
If you
I
were to
don't
work on that another time, do you think that all those things would have aligned at the point that it did
honestly
to
maybe. Yeah, like I think I like yeah, I think I was just like I just had a lot of momentum at that moment.
I like that.
Um
I like that you said, like, yeah, I mean, probably. That's awesome. I don't think that a lot of people would say that with confidence, but I'm glad that you did. That's awesome. Yes. Yeah. That's a really special kind of pocket to be in. I don't think that that happens for a lot of people, but that's great that it happened. I mean,
For sure. I mean, like again, dude, like I'm a very, very like lucky guy to be in the position that I'm in. Like I get a lot of satisfaction from doing that. And like I definitely, like and I don't know, I guess I can be a pretty slow guy when it comes to like making those sort of progress, but they've been pretty consistent since we've started the band. And that's kind of important to me, that like to feel like you keep progressing.
mhm.
I think it's funny because like I think I started with like big goals and like pretty definite ideas of what I wanted this band to be and all that, and I think it's opening up more and more, definitely. Um, like my expectations and where I think it should go, I'm just like more open and along for the ride that I used to be, definitely. But yeah, no, definitely, it's like yeah, like I said, very, very, very lucky to be in my position.
The second album that was due, right? That was
Yes,
the follow-up.
yes,
Okay.
absolutely. So that one, like there's another little smart thing there because like deux is two in French. So that was yeah, like that was like both like the second album and just the concept of two something.
Right. Was did it feel different than working on the
It was
first
definitely
one?
more efficient. I only had to record those songs once. So that was like definitely a big improvement.
Well, I like that it
Um,
was it was it was two for the one and then one for the two. That's kind of,
exactly. It's
yeah.
all numbers, man.
So that
Absolutely.
was that was intentional is what I'm
Oh
hearing.
yeah, absolutely. I want the record to show that it was absolutely intentional,
It's
very
very,
deliberate.
very deep, very deep. But I don't
Yes.
I don't expect anything less, of course. Yeah.
Well, yeah, like thank you, thank you. Um, but yeah, so like definitely I felt like more productive. Um, yeah, like more productive, more efficient. Um, like the influences were like slightly different, I think. But yeah, no, I felt more capable of doing it. That one was definitely like less of a not an ordeal, but you know what I mean? It was like less confusing to do. And like, I still had like, I mean, like, when I hear this album today, I'm still like, whoa, okay, I've gone a long way as far as like, recording and all that stuff. But I felt more, relevant and capable, like 100%. And I think like factually, like those recordings were a lot easier and a lot smoother than the stuff that I had like experienced before, definitely.
And that's another like learning process that you just had to get your
Yeah,
hands dirty to
exactly.
learn that.
Exactly. My hands had been dirty already.
They were
So
filthy
yeah.
when you got in there.
Oh,
Filthy.
absolutely. It was ridiculous. So yeah, no, definitely. I think it was like it was smoother. It was smoother. It went more like straight to the point. Um, yeah, like me and Fabi, like, had more of a shorthand, like there was all those like elements.
Hmm.
The band also at that time, the band was like definitely more like of a thing. So I remember like it felt definitely closer to like, I mean, I was still like taking care of a lot of writing and all that stuff, but yeah, I had like, like sort of dedicated and designated people to like sometimes even like, they would join me in the studio and I don't know, help me, like I don't know, push record if I'm playing a synth or whatever, you know what I mean? Like I was able to like make this a bit of a more of a group thing, if you know what I mean, as far
Mhm.
as the recording is concerned. Yes.
Did you ever find it difficult to relinquish some of that those jobs that you know that you're able to do, but you're like, all right, I'm gonna put it in somebody else's hands and we'll see what happens.
Biggest learning curve of Perilymph, as far as I'm concerned.
Mhm.
Like something I wasn't even aware that I wasn't good at first. You know what I mean? Like delegating in general, especially like you very well said, stuff that I know I can do. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like this is stuff I could not have thought that I was as bad as at this as I was. Do you know what I mean? Like I really realized when I was suddenly put in this position, I suddenly realized, yeah, like I'm not good at letting other people do something. I'm not good at delegating in general, you know?
Mm.
And so through Paralymph, I definitely learned to do that, you know? Um, and I definitely am more open to that now that I've ever been, you know. But at first, yeah, like when it hit me, when I realized not only that I needed to do it, but that I wasn't good at doing it, you know, at delegating, it freaked me out, you know, like, and I think, yeah, it was a big learning curve as far as like, you know, yeah, trying to leave room for that stuff, maybe get people involved and like, because I was operating under I thought, no, this is the ideal position for someone who wants to be in a band because they don't have to do anything but show up at a show and practice and play their parts. So for me, I was like, no, this is perfect. And then I figured out that like, yeah, maybe it's harder to like sustain interest if that door isn't even open, you know, like like for me, it was going to be
Right.
obvious that it wasn't going to be a prerequisite because I could do that by myself, but setting it up in a way that it wasn't an option for people involved to like really contribute on that level, I found out that it was not a good thing to do because I was so lucky with Fabi. At first, Fabi would like I would like even write drum fills, like with my keyboard, like in my demos, and he would play them like exactly as I wrote them, and he was like so happy to do it. And so yeah, like I just discovered that other people and in general, like, yeah, it can be a toxic environment if that door isn't open, if it's not even on the table, It can
Mhm.
be, I guess it's workable if it's not like a requisite or the main thing about the band, but yeah, I guess it was maybe like a bit like short-sighted and a bit like insecure and selfish of myself to like at start with like not really even letting room for that.
Right. And by the way, I mean, I that does not surprise me that Fabi is doing it exactly the way it's supposed to be because that guy's he's not getting up. He's there for a reason. He's gonna sit down. He's
Oh,
gonna do the work.
absolutely. Absolutely. He didn't hear no bell, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Not we're in here to work. So what year is that? Was the due released?
2019. Yeah, that's 2019. Absolutely.
And one was
2017, if I'm
2017.
correct. Yes, exactly. And so, yeah, like I said, like I think through because yeah, I recorded the first album between 2015 and 2017. And then, yeah, I think by the end of like 2017 or the beginning of 2018, like the second album was done. But this one, I was like, I'm not gonna release it until I have a label. Like, I wanted to like get some things that I felt like I needed uh before I released that one. I didn't want to like, do another informal self-release, which I think was like, a great thing to do and probably the only thing to do for the first album. But that second one, I was like, I want to use that album to try and get like another stepping stone.
Hmm.
And so that's
And
why we waited until 2019 is because we first found a label, then we had to like figure out their schedule and all that stuff.
right there was some other stuff to be negotiated that was out of your route. Like
Mm.
there's nothing you could do
Exactly.
about that.
But I was pretty set on like, waiting until I have some of that stuff going to release the album.
Was that difficult to pull the reins back a bit and like, okay, we gotta kind of stop because it's out of
Oh,
our
absolutely.
control.
I felt so useless, man. I felt so defeated that I had to wait for like anybody else to catch up. Like
Right.
again, like as something that I think I've learned a lot about uh through doing that. But yeah, no, at the time, like I felt really Like I was committed to waiting until we had that structure to release that album, but I felt very defeated by this realization, because I was
Saying
in
it and doing
control.
it is different. Yeah. And you
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
yeah,
Like it
right.
was just, yeah, yeah. Like so I guess it wasn't necessarily evil, but at the time I was like, I didn't even know if it was the right thing, like, and I think I only also really did it like that because that's what everyone said I should do, like everyone said, you shouldn't like put another album out just by yourself. Like just, it's good enough that maybe someone's gonna want to release it. So maybe hold out for that. So I'm glad I did, but it was not easy. It made me feel bad.
And at this time, are you playing live shows? Are you playing some shows or in this?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think a couple months after we released the first album, so that's 2017. Yeah, we got to play that summer. We played our first show with Perilymph. Um, and then yeah, like we started getting like I mean, we got really lucky. We got like a really awesome like second show ever. We got to open for Kikakaku Moyo.
I mean,
Um,
yeah, it's Devil Five, of course. Like, yeah,
Dude, I mean, like, and we got so lucky. Like, the band that was supposed to open for them that time pulled out like with 24 hours notice, and someone called me, and we just happened to be in band practice, and they were like, "Yeah, are you free to play tomorrow?" And I was like, "Yeah, definitely."
so we're good
Um,
now. Can you ask them, hey, can we play now? Can we just switch it?
yeah,
Because like
exactly,
we're
exactly. We're here right now. Like, can they make it to the venue maybe tonight? Because like we were, we got 4 hours.
we're
No,
we're already we're
exactly.
already set up. Yeah, we got everything
Yeah,
tuned in.
exactly. Actually, if they could come here, they can use our amps. We're cool.
Could you leave the
Um,
keys to the concert hall because we're just gonna go in there and just sound check and make sure
exactly, and just
everything's
do our
good.
thing, really.
Right.
Well, they asked us, so we felt like we were in the driver's seat on that one.
I I mean that and those are the rules. Yeah. Those are
Exactly.
established.
um, No, and yeah, and then like I don't know, I kept like I mean, like I was playing in a few bands. I knew a couple musician people who definitely were like a bit more established than I was, and so I was following their advice to I was writing a lot of like, I was finding out like shows that were happening in Berlin of bands that I like or that I felt were compatible with the music that we played. And I just kept writing promoters. I was like, we'll come play for next to nothing. Like, just let us play. So I did a bunch of that, like the first, yeah, couple months, maybe a year after we played our first show, definitely.
Was that first show, was that another like, all right, this is another
Oh,
moment?
definitely. Definitely. I mean, yes, that was another like very what you call it like yeah, big milestone in a way, like because all of a sudden it was real and it went relatively well. It revealed to me like a whole bunch of stuff that I would have to work on for the coming years, like as far as like being the front man of anything, like at first I was definitely not thrilled about it. It's still definitely more on the vibe of like necessary evil than anything that I can really reveal myself into.
Right.
um but it was that very first show was and it was a nice show. Like we got to open for like a band of friends of ours, and it was at like a pretty nice venue here in Berlin. I mean, it definitely like very nice for us for a first show. Like sold out, like a couple hundred people, I think. It was like, you know what I mean? It felt very encouraging.
Hmm. And were you riding a high off of that in a way like, okay, this is more juice, more momentum?
Definitely. I mean, definitely, because I think I was definitely like very reliant on being validated with the choices that I was making and the moves that I was making with this band. And yeah, just being able to play shows. I mean, like I guess like looking back on it, like yeah, like I would literally approach promoters with an offer they couldn't refuse, right? So uh but yeah, no, just being able to play shows and being able to like deliver on them and have people say that they think we sound good, or like, you know what I mean? Like to be able to engage with that sort of like yeah, validation for lack of a better word. That gave me huge momentum. That definitely gave me a lot of energy to keep doing it 100%. And
It,
yeah.
and who was filling out the rest of the ensemble at this point, at the on the first two
So
shows, for
yes,
instance?
So for the first year or so, so there was so Fabien on drums, who still plays with us. Then there was Timmy on guitar from Australia, and he still plays with us as well. Then there was our first keyboard player. His name is Mitch. He's a lovely guy. He's got his own project called Data Animal, and he works for the the label from the guys from A Place to Bury Stranger, Dead Strange. I don't know if you like heard. Yeah. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that he made very good for himself since he left the band. Um, and
Because everyone
so
who enters the band will, I mean, eventually just do incredible things. This
Oh,
is
absolutely.
also,
This
yeah.
is this is what I sell, like this is what how I present the band to the people who can join it. It's just a stepping stone, you know what I mean? It's just a trampoline. We're staying there because we like it, but this is, this is for them to
Look,
reach for the stars.
we've been to the highest highs, and I mean,
Exactly.
it's cool, but it's like we want to be us. Totally get it.
If it's for them, then they should have at it, right?
That's fine. That's fine.
Yes,
No
exactly.
problem. No,
No
nobody's saying
problem
any
at
problem.
all.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that was our first keyboard player. And then there was also the our first bass player, Nick, who I was playing with in another band, also a French dude. Uh, yes, and so that was like the first iteration of Perilymph. I mean, to be fair, like if we're gonna go into detail, there was a second iteration because there was like a first version of that band with two other people, but we never played live with this version. We just started learning my songs, and then one of them had to move back to Australia, and another one had to move back to France. And so they were like replaced, quote unquote, with the people from like the first lineup, if that makes sense. If
Right.
you follow me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There
Um,
was another iteration, but it wasn't.
exactly,
I
exactly.
don't want to say not legit, but it wasn't
Mm,
to what
they were
was
the
this.
pioneers. They were like, you know what I mean? They were
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
real founders. And so they should, be referred to as such. But
Pioneers,
yeah.
confidential. These are the kind of words that we're looking for. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. There's the buzzwords, you know? Yeah, so that was the band at the time, and that remained the band for like the first year. Then, so Mitch, our keyboard player, left the band and was replaced by a lovely French-Swiss person named Colin. And that was the band for a while. And then Colin left the band and got replaced by a lovely multi-instrumentist guy called Jan. And then more recently, the old Nick, has been replaced by a new Nick, another of our friends who's also called Nick, also on bass. Um, and yeah, and now we've just had like, because Jan he has a child, and he I don't know, he couldn't find the time for Perilymph anymore. So now we have the latest addition is our friend called Josie. And she's gonna join Perilymph on the keyboard actually for the next couple shows that we're gonna play.
Oh, it's fantastic.
So yeah,
Um,
so like not too much of a revolving door, but I guess like the nature of the band makes it that like like yeah, like it's people like can stay for as long as they can, if you know what I mean, as long as they can afford to, they can justify it. But like I don't know, like it's I think that every time someone had to leave the band because of the nature of it, it's not as dramatic as it could be in another context. If like we were like more, I don't know, like more what you call it, if we had grounded this band together, if you know what I mean, I think it
right.
makes it more possible to like make it without being like a revolving door, but like to make it more open like that, if you know what I mean.
Right, exactly. I'm with you. Was there always a full band even since the inception of the first show? Was it always
Yeah,
filled with
always an act. I mean, like like sometimes, like if someone left the band, sometimes we would be with a vacant position for a couple of months until we found someone to fill it. Um, but no, there's always been like an active sort of band, pretty much, that you can book. Always been available since the beginning. Like 100%. And for me, it's super important. Like I never found myself in a situation where I just don't have a band to play those songs. And I think it's a very like it's a very important component of what I'm doing. I need to have like a functioning band, if you know what I mean, for sure.
Right. I can see how that would help. Yeah, definitely.
No, but you know, I think like the reason why I'm making this precision is that like I think some people in my position would think that like the musical output is like the most important thing, and I think it is. But for me, the musical input output, sorry, is a lot less relevant without a band to play it. You know, in my
Right.
opinion.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that clarity only came from doing this.
Yes, for sure. Well, I mean, also like I had a hunch that this was how I wanted to do it because a lot of the music I like is presented like that. Like, you know, a lot of the music that I like is played by people who are a really good live band. And a lot of the music I like, um, yeah, like it's a great way to present it live, you know, and sometimes better than like even the most like uh you know worked out and beautifully polished recording. I think for me like yeah, playing live is probably the most relevant way to present the musical concepts that we do, you know,
Hmm.
definitely.
Hmm. And do you feel that way when you're an audience member and you're experiencing a concert?
Yes, absolutely. This is what I like, yeah, like I've had like, you know, like it's worked both ways. I've had bands that I loved, like I saw them live and I was like, ah, they're not that great live, you
And
know?
we're
And
gonna
then I've
name
had
them right now. Yeah.
oh, absolutely. I've got the list actually, like
Okay. Yeah.
no.
I think you shared it with me earlier.
Yeah, exactly. And then it worked the other way as well. Like, you know, music that I didn't think was insanely interesting on albums. Like I saw it live and I thought was like I was like, oh shit, I get it, you know, like this is so good, you know. So I think, yeah, like for me as an audience, as like someone who likes music, this is the what power live music can have, you know,
Right.
to really like share your ideas and what you think you have to say in a way that like nothing else really can, you know, like and so yeah, so this is what I try to present as Perilymph, but also what I seek as like a music lover, you know.
Hmm.
And honestly, like you know, like it also it does, you know, you can achieve that without being a good band, quote unquote. You know, like you don't have to be insanely well, like I don't know, rehearsed or trained or whatever, you know. But if it happens, usually I know it. You know what I mean? If I see a band and this thing I'm looking for in live music is happening, I just yeah, I can feel it right away. Definitely.
Are the things that you're looking for as an audience member watching
Yeah.
another band live, has that changed since being in this band?
Um, I would say most for the most part has been pretty consistent. I think it's remained very much the same. I think I'm a little more like you know compared to like the time that when I started playing music. I think energy and like you know like what do you call it like all the stuff that goes beyond just playing your part well, you know what I mean? Like so all the stuff that's like harder to describe but definitely is part of a live show, I think has become more like important to me as an audience member, but definitely as a performer as well. But I would say like it's mostly consistent with what it used to be when I started going to shows. You know, when I started like getting an idea of what live music is, it's you know remained pretty consistent. I don't need like a huge show. I don't need to be like entertained. Like you know, I don't need to be overwhelmed by anything outside of the music. You know like I don't need like anybody to be like you know oozing with charisma on stage. I'll definitely trade that over like people who play beautiful music beautifully and make it sound good and really like I don't know use all the tools to like make it a very what you call it like involving show if you know what I mean like something that
Right.
really like sucks you in, you know, like I think
Grabs your
it's pretty
attention.
much the same. Yeah, exactly. It's pretty much the same as it always been. And I think the biggest components of that are, yeah, like more like the musical performance that the performance on a larger sense. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Just this little side question here. When you go
Hmm.
to see a band, let's use Nirvana for instance,
Yes.
Would you want Nirvana to play, like, let's say they're playing Bleached or Bleach
Mm-hmm.
rather, in its entirety, front to back.
Uh-huh.
Would you want them to play it the way it sounds on the album, or would you want them to do whatever they wanted to do with it, with whether it be a little bit, improvised in some parts and more rigid in others, or where
Well,
do
I
you stand
mean,
on that?
I think this is like, yeah, very vast topic, I think, but definitely I would say that I'm open to like reinterpret like album material live if it builds on the stuff that you've established on the album.
Hmm.
I'm not completely against like, full-on revisitation, but I think that as an audience, like, yeah, like whatever was the essence of the song on album needs to be there. And then if you want to change a part, if you want to change a solo, add one, take one away, make a part longer, shorter, whatever, it's fine. It's by essence, it's not gonna be a problem for me as like an audience, as long as you're retaining. I think for me, like what's most important is that you're retaining the essence. You find a way to retain the essence of the song, what was like compelling about the song to begin with. This is the one thing that like you should really try and like capture and present live. Um, so I would say like, yeah, let's say I'm watching Nirvana play Bleach. As far as I'm concerned, they've got like, as much wiggle room as they want, as long as like they're really playing, they're like, it's not taking liberties, but like they always deliver on what was the essence of the song. You know what I mean? Like I want to be able
Right.
to feel the way that I did at home live, like, and yeah, if I'm going to be surprised, if I'm going to be taking a place that I didn't expect, it's even better. But I usually am let down if someone is presenting like a very different version of a song and it doesn't capture the thing that was interesting about the song in the
It
first
it's
place.
losing the essence of what you
Exactly,
were
exactly.
originally looking for or
Yes.
attracted to.
Exactly. I think this is the only thing you should really try and do when you play live, right? Is to achieve this thing of yeah, like being able to present the essence of your song. Definitely. I think this is like what I think is most important.
And that's very hard to reach that level, because I mean some people are just like, oh, I love this specific song the way it is because it is just perfect. Now if you
I
try to
think, yeah.
capitalize on that, like that's gonna be really, really difficult.
I mean, I think some songs are just like that. I think some songs, like if you really try to fuck with them, um, it's gonna be really hard not to take anything away from them, right? I think some songs by essence, the way they're written and all that stuff, they have more ground for those sort of like changes.
Hmm.
And some songs need to be played as such, And I think like genres and bands are definitely not equal when it comes to how much wiggle room I think they have, if you know what I mean, because of the kind of music that they come up with. Um, but yeah, I would say that like yeah, I would say like this is definitely for me, this is the what's at stake, like 100%.
Yeah. And sometimes which is I never thought about this until right now, that there is a fine line with great, great, great songs that any minor tweak could be disastrous.
Oh,
It
absolutely.
can make it just not one of the worst songs, but it's like, whoa, this
Yes.
is not the same and it's way different and it's worse.
Yes. And
Just
I
by one
think,
small move.
yes, I totally agree with you. And I think this should be the priority. I think this should not this should not someone's will to present something different or an audience will to see something different should not be prioritized over present capturing and presenting the essence of that song, if you know what I mean.
Hmm. Hmm. Well
Uh
said. Well said.
I, you know, I yeah, I do what I can.
I know you've been to school for the music. We all know this, right? I
Absolutely.
mean,
And yes, like and it paid off. See, like
yeah, I mean, yeah. I've never really thought about that. That is, I appreciate you kind of making my mind work like that. This is what you do when you have podcasts at 3:30 in the morning. This is the kind of stuff that
true.
happens.
Fuck, man. You know what? Like for a second, I forgot that it was that much later for you. Okay, dang.
But
True.
we're moving in a new direction. I love it.
Yes.
Um, but speaking of playing live, now are you doing the duties of guitar, and the synthesizer and vocals, or is it sometimes
Yes.
synthesizer?
No, so since the beginning of the band, that's pretty much what I've played every show as. I sing, lead, and I play guitar, and I play synth, and I'm in charge of the sampler as well.
What is it like juggling all those different pieces? It seems like it would be very difficult.
Well, it's definitely the kind of knife that cuts both ways in that it fulfills some of my needs. I love the idea of being in charge of like that much stuff in the soundscape that we create, you know.
Yeah,
It's definitely fun. They're like, vocals, like, I like doing more and more, but that's I think that like I had a lot more ground to cover in liking singing that I had with liking any other musical thing. Um, I love playing guitar live. I love playing synth live. So that's definitely like for that aspect, it's awesome. Like I love getting to do all three things in the context of Perilymph. But then, yeah, like the other side of that knife, the other side of that blade is definitely that is very demanding. It like I've got to work a lot at home. I've got to like even come up with ways to practice stuff of like, I have to practice the parts, but I have to practice like changing in between them and changing between the different sounds and yeah so no it's definitely a lot of work but so far like yeah I like it. I feel like it's necessary as well. I have to do as much as that in order to like fill the sound. um if I decided I only want to sing or I only want to play guitar or I only want to play synth, I definitely would have to hire at least one other person to like fill in those parts because they still would need to be played. Um, so yeah, it's definitely a huge task, but I find it pretty fulfilling, pretty interesting. And I don't know, I also like the idea that like I feel like I can take on those responsibilities because of like I don't know like, how much I've practiced the skills that I've built in a way. And so I feel like I should be doing that, if you know what I mean, like because I can.
right, right. You have kind of feel like hey, you have an obligation to it,
Yeah,
of some
exactly.
sort.
I feel like in that context, because it is kind of my band and I'm in charge, I feel like I should do everything I can. Like I think it would be just as relevant and receivable if I was like, oh, I'm doing like so much already. I'm involved so much. I only want to sing. I think it would be totally legitimate as well. But in this context, I feel like it's more relevant for me to like do as much as I can instead.
Right. Would you feel fulfilled, or would you feel the same way if you were just singing? If you're just like, hey, we're just doing vocals tonight, everything else is covered. Would you feel the same way during the performance? Or if
Honestly,
it's just playing the guitar or playing the synthesizer, if any of those are isolated.
well, I mean that I think I wouldn't feel the same level of fulfillment depending on what instrument it is. You know what I mean? Like if I
Mm,
was like for example, like in the hypothetical context, like someone else could sing, which I guess would be pretty weird because like I'm singing on the albums. But if it was possible, if we could like pull off some sort of like Genesis situation where like
mm-hmm. Or
but
MF Doom. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
exactly. See,
These
yeah,
things have been done.
yeah. That's right. I feel like guitar, I could totally be fulfilled in playing. Synth as well, why not? Um, vocals, I would definitely need like a little something to like keep myself busy, especially because like there's not vocals all the time, right? But I think with what I like doing live when I play, there needs to be some sort of like craft involved that's not just like based on my prowesses as a vocalist. You know what I mean? Like it needs to be something that's a little more, I don't know, like related to an object, like an instrument, to call it that. Yeah, I definitely need to be doing that live. I think, yeah, if one day I'm able to like afford a full band of people and I can just only sing, I think I'll still have a little station with a bunch of like weird stuff for me to like have fun with, for sure. Definitely.
That's needed. I like how we're establishing this now, just
Yeah, oh,
for future. So
absolutely. Yeah,
don't
yeah.
forget about this conversation,
Oh,
so
no,
we
no,
can
no. Yeah, yeah.
harken
Take
back
me up
onto
on
it.
it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Um, when you're hashing out an idea just on your own, just like, yeah, this could work. Are you immediately going to the guitar to see where that's going to take you? Is it
I
the
think it's
most obvious route?
equally guitar or keyboard. That's like
Okay.
the instruments that I like mostly write stuff on. Sometimes like I'll be playing a bit of bass and I find a cool line, like that maybe I'll build on. Sometimes it can start with like maybe a drum beat, but I would say like 75% of the time it's either guitar or keyboard. Um and usually like it happens, I would say it's maybe 50-50. Sometimes I just like, I'm inspired by like some music I discovered and I want to do a song that's a little like that, or I am like, oh, like that chord progression is awesome. I can probably like use this and like repurpose it or whatever. But I would say like also at least 50% of the time is just like playing those two instruments, playing guitar and playing keyboards when I find ideas. You know what I mean? Like I think it's like at least half, 50, maybe 60%, if we're gonna talk numbers. It's probably
Look,
just like also
I really appreciate you kind of adjusting for what we're talking about.
just trying to be accurate,
I do appreciate. I'm gonna check later on, so I appreciate you
Well, yeah,
owning up to it
exactly.
now. Yeah.
That's it. That's it. I don't want to be, called out. Um, but yeah, so like I would say like yeah, there's a significant part of like how I find ideas and how I develop ideas is also playing those two instruments, guitar and keyboard. Absolutely. Yes.
Could you see that changing further down the line? Could you ever? It's like, oh no, it's bass and violin. I mean, I'm just using that as an example.
No, well, I mean, the only progress that I could foresee is that maybe one day I'll be, like um I'll develop like, my writing skills and like what's the word for that? Like audiation, your ability to like hear stuff in your head, like kind of like visualize but with music.
Mhm.
One day maybe I'll be able to like, I won't need the interface of an instrument so much. I'll be able to like, flesh out a song as far as like the arrangement, the melody, the chords and all that stuff. I'll be able to like just do it with like maybe like my head and paper, like
Like
people used to
fucking
do it.
Mozart. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember that guy.
Exactly. No, or just like like real like composers, film composers, modern composers, like like most of them they're able to like really flesh out a song even without access to like an instrument. Um, and this is where like if I make significant progress, this is where I could see this going. But as far as like using other like completely drastically instrument to like really use as like a first composition tool? Probably not, because like like yeah, the guitar and the keyboard, they're like really all the harmonic tools, they're right in front of you, under your fingers. I mean, so like it's very um they're great interfaces to like try and like figure out this musical idea that you might have. Um and so I think that like I mean, like there are also like instruments that like I can use even to figure out the other instruments. Like I can use like guitar or synth to figure out like what bass sequence is gonna go well with like these chords that I found, what melody can go well. And then drums usually like they just, like I approach drums more like yeah, like something to support the song, so I just find like I try to find a backbeat, kind of, and build on that, but yeah, no, so I would say, yeah, I would say there's a fair chance that like guitar and keyboards remain at the center of like the tools that I have to try and flesh out musical ideas for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. Depending on which one you choose, whether it be the piano or the guitar, does does the instrument itself lend itself to manipulating the song or the idea in some of a way?
Oh,
If you
absolutely.
yeah,
No, for
does
me,
it
yes.
envelop it in yeah in a sense?
Oh, definitely. I think it's like I mean, most of the time, like I mean, like I said, like like I'll start like really demoing a song if I'm like about halfway there. Um and yeah, and at that stage, the keyboard and the guitar, like definitely like it's already everything I'm gonna find is in there. You know what I mean? Everything I'm gonna find, all the new ideas, it's gonna be through those tools. And usually, yeah, like
Wow.
I think they don't really reveal the same sort of IDs, if you know what I mean. Like the keyboard is going to reveal more certain kind of like melodies and chords and shape and that kind of stuff. And then the guitar is going to reveal like another kind of like a type of IDs. And I think this comes from the fact like I'm a guitar player to begin with. So I have like a much more like instinctive knowledge and understanding of the guitar, like a lot more like licks, if you know what I mean, like a lot more chops and stuff like that.
Right,
And
right.
I think when I compose on guitar, this comes out a little more, that personality, if you know what I mean.
Hmm.
And then keyboard, I only really started playing keyboard seriously like about 10 years ago. And I don't have like as strong a personality on keyboard, if you know what I mean. So keyboards, usually it's more going to reveal like this, it's going to be more neutral, if you know what I mean. The musical ID that is going to reveal is going to be more
I mean,
like,
I'm with you exactly. Yes,
yeah, okay, you get it. Yeah.
I
You, you,
totally
you,
understand what
you
you're
play
saying.
music as well?
Yeah, I mean, not to that
Okay.
extent at all.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, okay.
But
So you're a musician. You get it. Okay.
yeah, I understand what you're saying. But let me ask you this: could you see a point, just hypothetically, that you get to where you're at comfortability wise with the guitar and how how it's going to work, that could be transferred to the keys to the piano?
I think, yeah, I think, well, I mean, first of all, I think ultimately, yes. But I think one thing that needs to be said is that, like, I have a slightly different musical approach today than I did when I started guitar. So I think I'm definitely less of a sponge for stuff that's more like, uh, yeah, choppy and more licks, if you know what I mean.
Right, right. You're starting from a different
Yeah,
from a different
exactly.
place.
I think I'm less exposed to that and less like interested in that aspect of playing an instrument as I used to be on guitar. I definitely learned a lot of solos on guitar. I learned a lot of like riffs, a lot of songs, which I didn't do as much on keyboard. Um, and so yeah, like I would say the guitar, yeah, like it definitely has that. And the keyboard, I think like maybe as I get more comfortable and I develop my skills on keyboard, I'm definitely gonna have a bit more of a personality. But I think it's bound to like end up at a slightly different spot because of the different approach that I have now, that I've had like since I started playing keyboards. Like I definitely, I started playing guitar with like so many like references and so many like ideas of what kind of guitar player I wanted to be and like what kind of guitar sounds I liked. And with keyboards, all I have is like sounds that I like use of keyboards that I like, but I don't really have any keyboards hero, if you know what I mean. Like there's some keyboards player that I love, but there's nobody that I'm like, I want to be this guy. And when I
Yeah,
was younger with guitar, I definitely had a bunch of guys that I was like, I would gladly give up any musical personality I have to be this guy instead. And I think this informs your playing like in a pretty significant way.
right. And you can only feel that. I mean, I don't want to say this as an absolute, but maybe once, maybe only once, that you could feel
Yes,
that way.
honestly, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Like I don't know for sure until it's all said and done, but like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if like I really never get in this position again with another instrument that I'm like, like sort of investigating it on that level.
Hmm. Right.
I think, yeah, from now, every instrument that I start is bound to be more like of an interface than something that's really going to develop my musical personality. I think as far as like musical
Mm,
personality, I'll always be a guitar player first because that's what I was at the most formative moments of my musical thing.
right. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Another very good point. Another, I cannot dispute that. Yeah.
nice.
You're making
Glad
me
to
think
hear.
here. You're making me
Dude,
think here, man.
it's just late, dude.
but it's late, but we're kind of we're learning new things. Do each of these albums, do they kind of represent a certain time, or do they feel different from one another, each of them?
100%. For me, me personally, as the person who made them, I definitely know exactly what kind of music I was like, especially had recently got into, for each album, like definitely. Like I think first one was definitely like it was like, me getting really into like the first couple like Tame Impala albums, like Beach Boys, and like having listened to Pink Floyd for like years. Then the second album is definitely more. I discovered like both more like slightly darker stuff. I remember at the time I got really into that one Wand album, Golem, I think it is.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I was really into that one, and also had discovered like more like library music stuff. So I was like keen on like exploring stuff that maybe would be more instrumental and maybe more like theme based, like as far as music. Then the third one was definitely like me getting into like what they call like MPB, like 60s and 70s like psychedelic Brazilian music, if you know what I mean.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um and then the last one, the most recent one that we're putting out next week is definitely like me getting really into like prog stuff and wanting to do like a real proper prog album, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
So yeah, no, definitely me personally, I don't know if it's as obvious to like someone else listening to this music, but for me personally, yeah, like it's so obvious. It was obvious then and it's obvious now, kind of like 100%.
Do you feel like, I mean, you kind of already answered this, but to what extent are you pushing the boundaries, kind of exploring new sounds and ideas?
Well, I mean, I think it's a very interesting question because like I do try and claim to come up with stuff that is like that has personality, that has like, originality to it. But I do make music that's also very reminiscent of music that's very old, So like I think it's the duality of like feeling like I do have like new ideas that are interesting in this context, but also like using tools that are not exactly like brand new, not for all of them. I use some like newer stuff and technologies and sounds and stuff, but a lot of it definitely like, calls back more to like an older time. So yeah, I think that's definitely like a big duality in what I'm trying to achieve is
Blending the two
like
together.
yeah,
Yeah.
blending the two for sure. Yes. And yeah, I'd like to believe that like yeah, if you're into that sort of music, you will find it like that it does further that tradition. And at the best case scenario, if you're not particularly into like that kind of music already, then maybe you can find it, I don't know, like new and current, hopefully.
Here's hoping.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but the newest album, that is,
Yes.
it's not out as we're recording this, but it will be
No.
out after when this is, when this
Okay, awesome.
this podcast is out.
Yes, like a week from today.
Yeah. So looking at looking down the barrel of this release date, how are you feeling about it now? What is your mindset about this new album that's not quite out yet, but it's almost time?
Well, I think I'm like happier and more satisfied with this album at this stage, so like right before the release that I've ever been about any other albums. Usually the other three, like a week from the release, I was kind of like, ah, what have I done? Like this is terrible, like I can't believe I'm gonna show that to people. That was more my vibe. And with this one, no, I'm like, I think I've like definitely worked a lot on like those sort of impulses. Um, also like I was afforded a lot of time to like make that album because there was the whole pandemic and like all of that stuff. So I definitely also feel like I took longer to make that album than any of the other ones. Um, so yeah, like approaching a week from the release, I'm definitely like super like more than ever excited for people to like hear that. I'm super like yeah. satisfied and proud of the result for sure. It represents like a lot of like um yeah, progress within for me, like on many levels. So yeah, definitely very stoked and very happy. Yeah.
Yeah. The progressions in no, it's not and imaginaries, progressions,
Yes. Yes.
imaginaries.
Progression
Uh,
imaginaire, yes.
that sounds way better. Than how I said it. Come on now.
I like how you said it, man.
I don't. I like it in its native tongue. Yeah. Uh, you had shared a link with me that I was able to get a little taste of this, and yeah, it's
Awesome.
amazing. I really
Thanks so
dug it.
much, man.
Looking back on some of these older tunes, there is a different
Hmm.
and as you progress through these four albums, right? Four,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes, that's the fourth one. Yeah.
four albums. You do see a progression of different changes in styles and in tones and whatnot. Even just
Yeah.
through one album, this is different than this one, which I didn't like. I wanted to hear the same song over and over and over again.
Yes.
But that's next. That's next album.
Yeah, exactly. I'll do yeah.
Yeah,
It's gonna
yeah.
be hard because I've got four different albums, so I guess I have to like do all of them again at a time. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'll try for you.
I'm not saying it's gonna be easy.
No,
No,
yeah, you're right. You didn't say that.
I
That's
did.
true.
I never claimed that. Uh, that that is interesting though that you're not feeling the normal feelings at this point. Do you think it's largely to do with the timing though, with the time frame that you've been operating
I
with
think
this?
yes. I think also like that, sort of dread of the release, of dread of showing my work is like something I've become aware of it. I've become definitely aware of where like yeah, pretty much from the start, and it was very clear to me that this was stuff that I could work on. This was stuff that like I think was still is, because it's not like an accomplished work 100%, but it was definitely rooted uh in stuff that I could maybe control a little more than I had previously thought. And so, yeah, I think you're right. It definitely comes from like the time that I was afforded for this, but it also comes from being very conscious that like a lot of those feelings are like, it's between you and yourself. And if you're lucky to catch them, then maybe you can try to work on them, and I've definitely used every release to try and like work on those feelings and rationalize them and realize that like I don't know, at the end of the day, like I still want to do this. I still uh I still yeah like so I think there's like definitely the specific context of that album helped, but I think it's also just being conscious of um that thing that happens inside, like that definitely I don't it's not that it's not related at all to like the reality, but it's more it's there's stuff that you can do inside of your own brain to maybe try and influence it or understand it at least.
Right. And sometimes there's not like a clear view of it, or it's not quite within reach, but you can get close to it.
Yeah, I mean, just being conscious of it. I think it's like that's true for any like sort of inner development kind of stuff. If you're conscious of it, if you're lucky to be surrounded by people who help you like work towards that, and like yeah, and like it's all like it's all it's all like kind of at the end of the day, it's like all just mental well-being stuff. And if you can develop the tools to try and work on that, then yeah, I think you can make progress. And I think when it comes to this, and when it comes to like just inflicting myself that sort of like doubt or like that kind of stuff. Yeah, like I don't think I'll fully ever be rid of it, but I definitely found little ways to like try and like at least curb the stuff that is curbable, like
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
behavior that like isn't rooted in reality, that is just you trying to be mean to yourself, like
Yeah,
because I think
yeah.
a lot of it is rooted in that.
Right, and you're your own worst critic.
Oh,
Uh,
definitely. And I
yeah.
think that like I think it's, like I don't think you fully want to lose that, because I think like, being able to be critical of yourself is very important, especially when you're trying to be creative. but you know, like it's good to know where the line is, when you're being critical and where you just like maybe have like a fucked up way of dealing with something, you know?
Yeah, and it is blurred, that line.
Yeah, for me it started being very blurred. It's, you know, it's becoming a little more in focus with the years, but yeah, it's definitely started being very blurred. And I think it's only, yeah, thanks to like those progress that I'm able to like, yeah, be even just like excited and like, you know, not completely serene, you know, but like mostly happy and satisfied when it comes to like thinking of this release, you know?
Yeah. And just again, curbing what can be curbed is that's such a
Yes.
good pin on it.
Fuck yeah, man.
I mean, blowing my mind again. 4 in the
You know.
morning, blowing my mind.
True. Well,
Um,
it's a good hour to you know, get your mind blown, you know. So
I mean,
I think it's
I
helping me.
like it. I like it at this point. This is good. Um, Fabian, I really appreciate you coming on here, man.
It
I
was my absolute pleasure, man. Honestly, yeah. Like
thank you
thanks so
for
much for
blowing
taking
my
the
mind
time.
a couple times. I appreciate it. Kind of making me rethink some stuff. But
Appreciate it, man.
before I let you go, yeah, absolutely. Before I let you go, I got some promotion to do. So this album, this magnificent album that we just been talking about here, um, progressions, imaginaries, which is that was hard for me to say that time too.
Uh, very good.
Is out now through six tons de chair.
Yes, it's
Okay,
a lot of French workout for you, but yes, Citan de chair.
I'm really working on it. Mise en place. No, six six tones did share records and Stone Pixels records.
Yes.
It's a kind of a
It's a joint release,
collaboration
yeah. So like
joint
Citan
release.
Citan de chair is like taking care more of the physical, you know, like vinyl. And Stone Pixel is taking care of everything else. You know, Stone Pixel is the label that was rather recently created by my friend Stéphane from L'Éclair. I think you had him on.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic band,
Yeah, like
fantastic man. Yes,
yes,
I didn't know
yeah.
that
I
he had a
mean,
record label. That's awesome. Okay,
yeah, absolutely. It's pretty new. There's only a couple releases so far. I think we like release number 3 or 4, something like that.
so it's
Yeah,
been
and I
pretty
mean,
established. Yeah,
yes, and honestly, yeah. I mean, you know, like it's just, you know, like nothing left to prove for this label, I think.
right.
Uh,
It's Atlantic, and then this one. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. But yes, and yeah, I mean, I don't know, like he's always been like a great supporter and friend, for years. And yeah, like, I couldn't think of like a better person to like, give us like this sort of help, you know, like definitely. And like yeah, like and same goes with Laurent from Citan de Chair, who's yeah, he like, you know, he definitely, I've got, you know, like I don't know, if I started really thanking those people for everything they deserve, like that would take another podcast, you know. So yeah, no, I'm super
part
stoked to
two,
work on them.
part two is coming soon, so
Exactly,
we'll be
part
able
2 is just
to
gonna be
really
me
air
with a
it out.
long list of like thanks. Absolutely.
Yeah, and you can definitely trust Stefan's judgment on who is big putting out good music. I mean that guy knows which ends up.
He knows a thing or two, yes. So that's yeah, I'd like to believe that he can be trusted with our music.
I think that you're in good hands there. Yes, and you can buy the vinyl at I'm gonna try to say it Cetons de Chair
Yes.
bandcamp.com and there is the vinyl 100 black 100 pink.
Yes. 100 of like this like multicolored thing. Yeah, I guess it's mostly pink, but it would be exclusive to just call it pink. You know, it's weirdly pink. I think it's more exclusive to the truth.
The weirdly pink one and in the
Yes,
black one, there's 100 of each, and that is available right now. So
absolutely.
go buy it, and the new album will be released everywhere
Yes,
as
so it's
well.
releasing digitally like a week from today, so that'll be March 13th.
Mhm, mhm. And that'll be
Yeah,
linked below.
and
So go click on that link
absolutely.
and go
And I
check out
definitely
what we've been
invite
talking
people
about.
to check it out. You know, yes, please listen to the album. It's worth the time, I think. It's not too long.
Absolutely. I definitely I concur with you that it is
That's awesome.
definitely worth the listen. Fantastic. And of course the other Perilymph releases can be found everywhere wherever the people get their music,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes. Listen to those as well. Might as well, like But if you only have time for one, listen to the new one.
Okay, all right. I said, just do it. Just do a couple from each. That's why I say bounce around a bit.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, like then you get an idea of our range. Actually, yeah, that's probably better. Like, yeah, yeah,
That's
we get
just
a range.
that's just one man's opinion. But yeah,
No, but
definitely
yeah,
go back and check out the older releases as well.
yes,
Fantastic. And I'm assuming that the digital release of the new album will be put up on the Bandcamp as well.
yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Bandcamp, like pretty much everywhere that is available. Yes, but I mean, like. Also, that's a conversation for a whole other podcast. I'm not gonna start on like like where should people listen to our music, and who's gonna be like the fairest sort of third party of middleman.
Yeah.
But yeah, honestly at this point I'm just happy if people listen to the music at all. Like yeah, I don't have a whole lot of other hopes for it right now. I just would like people to hear it if they
That
can.
well that's a good thing that everybody can go do, and you can go support the band by buying some of the older tracks as well through
Yeah, exactly. By
Perilymph
anything, we're gonna have merch
Bandcamp.
soon. We're gonna be making some really cool t-shirts. So I hope people buy them.
100 black, 100 kind of pink. Is what I've heard. I don't know if
For the
that's
t-shirts, absolutely. Actually, yeah, maybe all pink, but I don't know. We'll have to see. I have to find the perfect hue of pink, and so far it's very hard to find. So
that's the most difficult part. Yeah.
oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like textile is what music is all about, is what I always say. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's yeah, 10% sound, 90% visual.
Exactly.
And everybody gets up to date with news and shows and releases and all that good stuff. I follow the band on Instagram, which is at
Absolutely.
um Perilymph, but it's PERIL.YMPH, and
Yes.
all of that will be linked below. And do we have anything else to promote? Fabian, do we got some stuff coming out? Some shows, perhaps?
Well, I mean, we're still in the process of like booking a couple shows to celebrate the release, and hopefully we can go on tour later this year. But nothing definite. But yeah, if people are want to come see us live, I mean, we do have one festival that is confirmed for this summer in Poland, Red Smoke
Ooh.
Festival. Check it out. And the rest of the stuff, yeah, it's gonna come in the next coming days. It'll be announced. So definitely, yeah, if people want to catch us live, definitely like keep an eye on our very well kept social media
Yes.
profiles.
Yes, you guys are always posting memes on there. It's a good
Oh,
follow.
absolutely. Like
Yeah.
people tell me I should post less, but I just love it. So
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
gonna be like that.
But and it's all good stuff. No, but I definitely go follow the account to keep up to date with all the
Yes.
with all the new stuff.
Yes, please.
And Fabian, I love the new album, man.
Thanks
Fantastic.
so much, man. Honestly, like, yeah, I'm really, really thankful that I don't know that you know the band at all. That
I know you guys
you.
very well now. I think.
Yeah, well, definitely, definitely more than most people. Yeah, and yeah, like I said, like I'm very, very grateful that you wanted to talk to me at all, and that you're interested in the stuff that I make. I'm very flattered, and yeah, really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for making it, sir. Progressions Imaginaries out now, and go check it out. Thank you, Fabian. I'm gonna stop recording this. I'll talk to you in a minute, all right?
Yeah, man, sounds good.